So if there's a material that I don't plan to access any further, I can simply right-click that material and choose to remove it from history. Let's do it with this one as well. If I were to right-click on the material and bring up the Smart Material Editor, you'll notice at the bottom we no longer have a Save as New option. This material is seen by 3D Coat as separate from the main material that we originally selected. Let's say we're happy with it and we do want to store this to our library. To do that, I'll just right-click and choose To Materials Library. And we'll see it here at the very bottom. One major benefit of attached materials is the ability to work with lower resolution UV texture maps and have attached materials resampled automatically if you upscale your UV textures later on. How you would do that is by going to the Textures menu under Mesh and Texture Resolution. You'll see your UV maps listed here. Again, per UV map, you could change it. Let's explore a more simplified example. I have a material ball with two different layers, each having their own unique material attached to them. And if I were to go to the Textures menu under Mesh and Texture Resolution, when we are ready to export to either a game engine or a 3D application for rendering, then we can choose to upscale our UV map texture to a higher resolution, such as a 4K map. However, I need to mention one important caveat. In Photoshop, copying a low-resolution image to a high-resolution document will be of no real benefit. Likewise, upscaling a UV texture map beyond the resolution of the source maps in our Smart Materials will also provide no visible gain. With these two attached materials, I have 5K maps driving the individual channels. So there should be a rather dramatic change when I upscale this to something like a 4K map. As you can see, quite a drastic difference. Let's go over another example where we want to copy an attached material to another layer or another object in the scene. I have two different objects with two unique attached materials. You can see this one belongs to this layer. If you have Show Displace Mesh checked in the View menu, you may want to uncheck that and check it again in order to refresh the viewport. I'll unhide that layer again. I'll just delete that layer. I have a hotkey set for that Show Displace Mesh, so I'll just temporarily disable it. Now let's create a brand new layer for this object. I'll go to the original. I can right-click on this thumbnail or in the Material History panel and choose Copy Material. Now let's go to our new layer, then to our Material History panel and choose Paste Material. All that has done is put this material into our history and made it available to us. It hasn't attached to the object and it's not been filled yet. Now let's right-click and choose Attach to the current layer. It's attached but still not applied. So let's now click on our object and we have our copy. If I want, I can right-click on this one, go to the Smart Material Editor, and let's change our color to something drastically different, and then hit Save. The first thing you'll notice is that whatever changes I make to one is totally independent of the other. In some situations, this is exactly what you want. In other situations, you may copy attached materials to many different objects, and you may want the original to affect all the others if you make any subsequent changes. So let's take a look at that. Again, I'll just go ahead and delete this layer. We'll repeat a similar process by creating a new layer. And again, I'll go to the original, right-click on the thumbnail, and this time, instead of copying the material, I want to copy a material reference. This is simply going to be an instance. So we'll click that, go to this new layer that we just created. We'll repeat the same process. Paste material, attach to the current layer, and click. Now, if we go to our original and right-click on that, choose the Smart Material Editor, and should we make some drastic color change, and then hit Save, we can see that changes to one affects the other. Now let's go back to our gun barrel and finish with a few final notes. In the Smart Material Editor, to delete a layer, you can click the X icon in the upper right corner of the layer. Edge scattering, as we looked at before, is contingent upon a texture map. If you don't have a texture map, edge scattering won't work at all. I'm going to adjust the degree. Edge scattering, if I drag that slider, you can see that it's having an effect. But if I were to come to the right side and click this X icon, it's going to remove that map. Now, as I drag my edge scattering slider, you'll notice that it does nothing. So once more, this is the only channel in the layer that is dependent upon a texture map. Contrast does not need a texture map. It applies to the contrast for the entire layer. And if we want to apply a mask texture to mask this layer, we can assign that here. Or we could use a procedural noise as we looked at previously. With that, we will wrap up this series on Smart Materials in 3D Coat. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.